What's up? Welcome in, everyone. We are here. Another live show. Mandy is back. Welcome back, Mandy. How are you doing?
Hi, Amani. I missed
Yes,
you.
yes. I missed you too.
I was on an epic anniversary, a 10-year anniversary trip that I was petrified to take because I had already taken a little trip earlier in the month. And I'm glad we went. I'm super glad we went.
Yes, yes. I was able to see some pictures. Tell us about what you loved about what the hotels did to really welcome you and they made it personal. I love that you shared that.
Ah,
That was really cool that you shared. Talk to us about that.
yeah. Well, I have to back up for a minute because originally, as you know, I've been with Scoot for 14 years, but we've been married for 10 this July. And we were going to renew our vows in Santa Barbara. That was the plan. Santa Barbara's special to us. We're just going to go for the weekend. We had that booked. And then my husband was like, "Well, the Yankees play the Guardians
Mm,
that's this week and the Mets play so and so and
Orioles.
I was like, "Wait, is this our anniversary trip or your like triple play baseball trip?" And so anyways, it turned into both, which was great. So we went to New York from Saturday to Wednesday and then we went to Toronto Wednesday to Friday and then we ended up in Santa Barbara. So
All
um
right.
but it was awesome because when you make your reservation and they ask, "Are you celebrating a special occasion?" And I said our 10-year anniversary, and that was it. Well, we have in the hotel business, we do a lot of business with Omni, and we've got friends that work at the hotel and stuff. And I never ask for anything. I know a lot of people that do what we do ask for special things. I never ask. I just, I give that to my clients. So it was super special to arrive. We got to the Omni Berkshire and they had a picture of our dog, our
Mm,
sweet little dog, Luca. They had the picture
okay.
of Luca in the room and they had balloons and they had a happy anniversary and they said, we want you to have the comforts of home with you, which was super cute. And then when we got to Toronto, they had a picture of Luca at the entrance. Then they had a picture of us, a really cute picture of us in a frame. And then on the bed, they made a heart with
Okay.
rose petals and
Okay.
put the number 10 in there. And so,
All
yeah,
right.
it was great. Yeah, both Omnis did a great job, but those were really, somebody had to be tasked to
Yeah. Do a little
find
research.
us, find us on the interwebs and print pictures of us. And I thought that was very special. So yeah,
Do a
good,
little
good
research.
job, Omni.
All right. We like it. We like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Shall nothing really interesting going on with me over this
Yes.
side. School starts
Well,
tomorrow, so that's
okay.
probably the biggest highlight.
And what
Yeah,
classes are you teaching this semester? What for everybody out there listening, watching?
yes.
What are we teaching now?
We're teaching music business, we're teaching entertainment operations, and we're teaching two sections of strategic business seminar, which is a class that all
Ooh.
seniors have to take to graduate in management. So, or every major. So that's what I'm teaching this semester. Those four classes.
Exciting. And can we get a book update? So for those of you watching, listening, Amani's first book came out a long time ago. His second book he's been working on. I think it's an anthology. It's going to be a
Oh,
big
okay.
musical almanac. But can you
Yeah.
just share the update so we all know?
Waiting on second round of cover revisions now. I think I saw an email where they sent me over some more revisions, so I'll review that after the show. And then I'm really just trying to get these last kind of 16 photos. I've been working with Getty Images, trying to get these last 16 photos from them. So then we can, and I think we're about 3 days out from going to layout. End of August, we go to layout.
Mm,
After that's done, the manuscript will be locked in. I can then start to narrate the audio version. So things are happening. And that's the latest.
exciting.
The title of the book is called The Quiet Storm: A Historical and Cultural Analysis of the Power, Passion, and Pain of R&B Groups. That is the title.
Boom.
Boom.
Where did all the R&B
Yes.
music go?
Where did
Where'd
they?
it go, Amani?
Well, you read the book and have me on your show, and I'll tell you. And we'll talk about the when the book comes out. We'll review it here too. We'll do a little premiere here too. Yes.
Oh God, I'll how about I have you on my show, Amani? How about
Okay.
that?
Yeah. Have me on your
Okay.
show. Yes. Yes.
Okay, let's do
Now,
that. Let's do that.
speaking of shows, on
Yes.
Amazon Prime, I've been watching this show for the last 3 days, binge watching it. I can tell my students. Tell us who our guest is and what we're going to talk about today. I have a long list of questions and thoughts. Let's go.
Yes, let's go. We have an awesome CEO, visionary, dad, brother. cigar aficionado, one of the many family stars of the new Amazon Prime docuseries called Kings of Fish, and the CEO of the San Pedro Fish Market, Michael Ungaro. Welcome to
Yeah.
the show.
Welcome. We'll
Hello.
give you a round of applause here. Coming through. Yes.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. We're here. We are so excited to talk to you. I have so many questions. I think I'm going to let Mandy, she likes to go to the Wayback Machine, which is go back to the beginning. I think if we start there, work our way forward, I'm going to let Mandy start off because I have questions I'll probably go in between her. So, what's your first question for Michael today, Mandy?
Well, hey, Michael, welcome. We're so happy you're
Hi.
here. Thanks
I'm
for
ready to
being
answer
here.
questions.
Okay, good. Love it. He's ready for the grill. I can see it in
Yes.
his eyes. It's
Go.
great. I have a two-parter. The first one is for anyone that has never been to the San Pedro Fish Market, can you just give a quick background? What is it? Where is it? And why are you involved with it? And then I've got a follow-up to this.
My grandfather started the original business in 1956, and he had my dad and his best friend Tommy, who's my uncle. They were 15, and he gave them a choice that they could work or go to school. They didn't like school, so they worked, and they built it into the business that it is now over the years, learning everything they could about seafood. And we were in a fishing community, like the San Pedro's on the LA Harbor. A lot of families moved there from Italy, Greece, and Croatia to fish, Japan too. So there was a lot of fishing families. A lot of seafood was coming through there to begin with. We didn't do the commercial part of it. We did the retail part. And over the years, there's a story. I don't know if I shared this before, but there's a story from one of there was like 4 or 5 guys that grew up together. One of them is a family friend still, John Bassage is his name. And John told me this story after my dad passed away. He goes, when they had career day in school, we were in high school, and they went around and asked everyone, like, what do they want to do when they grow up? My uncle Tommy said, I just want to own the biggest fish market in town.
No
Mm.
way.
Yeah. So he had this vision to do this thing. And we just earlier today, as a matter of fact, we're meeting with a new architecture firm tomorrow or Wednesday for like what we're going to be doing as we design new locations. So my brother had all the blueprints from like the 80s, from all these ideas and concepts and things that we were looking to build. And we were asking him about it, and it was just really intriguing, like that vision to go from age 15 to the 80s, which would have put him probably in his 40s, right? To be thinking through that. So what happened was that vision and that drive, the business just kept evolving and evolving. And where it became at its most popular peak was what I would call sort of an experiential seafood brand. Because when we, without going into a whole bunch of history, every time we ran into a big roadblock that almost put us out of business, Tommy innovated his way out of it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that he did that was most successful is allowing people to pick out their own seafood and then have it cooked on site. And that just kind of evolved over the years to where it turned into what we call eventually our world famous shrimp tray, but it's really seafood tray. And so people could go in and pick out any combination of seafood by the pound, add bell peppers, tomatoes, onions, red potatoes, garlic bread, and we would cook it for them family style on these big trays. And all the seating was family style. It was all basically picnic benches. So what started to happen over the years is you would see people coming in going, I used to come here with my parents when I was a little kid, and now I've got my kids, my parents with me. And in some cases, even a fourth generation would be there. And that would be 10 to 20 people sometimes. So these long picnic benches allow the whole family to sit down on the water outside with a giant mountain of seafood that they designed on their own by picking out their own fish. And it just became a place where people could celebrate food and family together. And that's, I think, what made us really successful over the years. It's really unique.
I love that. I love that Uncle Tommy had the vision so long ago. And so many times we don't speak that vision, right? You just, because you think it might be crazy or something. And he said it and it's actually happening. I love that. I want to go back to the little bit of a Wayback Machine with you is you're growing up in the family business. You're seeing this stuff happening. You decide to go to college. You go to USC and you work for a couple corporations in a corporate work for a little bit. Now you've come back to the business. So I want to hang with you in college for a minute and think, I just want to hang with you in college in general, but I want to hang with you in college and see how did you go from, hey, I want to be in this corporate world to, I don't like this corporate world. I want to go back to the business. Like, what did you do in the corporate world and what made you
I'm
change?
sometimes I'm still not sure I want to go back to the business, Mandy, to be honest with you. When we were growing up, the business opened, and it's the last form it was in, which was San Pedro Fish Market, opened on Good Friday of 1982, and I was 11. My mom had gallstones, and at the time, like, that was a big surgery. Now it's outpatient. Like, we're sending my
Yeah.
mother-in-law to have hers taken. Probably she'll be home the same day. But my mom was out
Mm.
of commission for a long time,
Mhm.
and the business literally just opened. Right. So my
Wow.
brother John and I had to go to work with my dad because we were 10 and 11. And then Henry and Jennifer, who were a couple years younger than us, would go and like rotate between grandparents' house. And so as we were doing that, my dad's like, okay, help me set up the smoke fish. Oh God, this stinks. So hey, I'll go into the new restaurant we just opened and clean the tables. So we're doing all this work, and it just never stopped, from age 11 all the way through high school. So every time my friends were out on a weekend partying and doing their thing, I was late that night at work covered in fish guts. And what would happen was my dad and Tommy would be like, how do you feel right now? I go, this sucks. They go, well, when you decide that you don't want to go to college, think of that, because we didn't go, and this is what happened, because they had that choice and they were giving me the same choice. And so I was in a little bit different. That really like hit me in a different way than I think it did my brothers. For my brothers, they're really into the business. Their whole social life was around the business. All their friends were in the business, but mine weren't. And the few that I did have there, like it didn't mix for me as well as I wanted, because I wanted a break when I left. I didn't want to go home and talk about work.
Mhm.
So as my friends were going off to college, more and more and more of them, I was like, I'm getting left behind here. I don't like this. I'm driving to Santa Barbara, which I also love, to visit friends at UC Santa Barbara, or go down to San Diego, friends at San Diego State, or wherever. And I'm like, this sucks. I'm still working. I was in community college because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
And I got to this point where I graduated high school, and my dad's like, you've been working all this time. Your friends are all going to school. I get that you're not sure why you want to go, but I think you should take the summer off. Use all the money you saved and just take the summer off work, because you're never going to have an opportunity to do this again. And you've been working since you were 11. And so I used this money I saved up, and none of my friends could do much. So we maybe go to Palm Springs, or we do little trips, go to Las Vegas, whatever we could do for the whole summer. And I go, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. So I didn't. I went and I worked in let's see, what did I do? I worked in a yogurt store that was also / video rental store.
Sounds
It's
shady.
like 1988, right?
What happened there?
That's another story. And,
Yeah, I bet.
and then I also had eventually got a job as a bank teller. Oh, actually, I had a few other jobs. I was in a seafood. I was selling seafood out of a grocery store chain. And I was like, why am I doing this again? And what happened was I made this decision because I really didn't know if I wanted to go to school or work. But I knew that working in my family business I was a little jaded about it, but I also had this like a title. I was family. So I was always treated different. I didn't think it was right. So I got this job in the seafood department at a grocery store chain. It was actually Hughes Grocery Markets. Now I think it's Ralph's. I'm not sure. I know they sold. But I was in their seafood department. I go, I'm not gonna drop out of school. I'm gonna take 2 classes, geology and geography. So because I was worried I'd never go back to school. So I have these 2 easy classes that are essentially the same, and I'm going to work full time in a union job. And I cut my hand on I've never to this day seen a frozen can of shrimp that I've seen in this grocery store, but I cut my finger really bad on the can on Good Friday, being left alone. And so I had to go get stitches, and it turned into a whole thing because they didn't give me workers' comp paperwork because I didn't know anything about that stuff. And I was like, I don't like this. I'm going back to school. And a friend of mine called, and he's like, they're hiring out my bank. It's a bank teller job. It's banker's hours. Oh my God. I didn't think those were real.
Yeah.
And it was like $10.50 an hour in 1989, and it was like, and I had a whole bunch of friends that worked there. So I walked in, and there was my grandfather and his best friend, whose name was Freddie the Leg Breaker. And apparently they met there every day for lunch in this bank lobby.
Oh.
And I'm like, what are you doing here? And they're like, why are you dressed in a tie? Like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you down working with the family? And I go, no, Dad gave me summer off. I never went back. I'm gonna try something different. And they walked me over to the branch manager with like a hand on each shoulder. He needs a job.
Oh.
It was
Wow.
trying to not go through this again. But
That's
that was like a great college job. I did that. I transferred to another school and eventually USC. And I went and I was determined to not have to go back to work with my family. I was like, I don't think my dad wants me to do this, and I think I could do better. And I did. I worked in banking. I worked in insurance, and I was just miserable. I didn't like them. Like the banking job. here. And we couldn't see how we could afford a home. And I was talking to my dad about it because he goes, you should probably come back and just sit in the office with me on Sunday. So your foot is in the business a little bit, but I don't want you to come back for full time. And I was telling him what they were paying me, and this job. And he goes, I pay your brothers more than that. I'm like, that doesn't help me.
Yeah.
I feel better about my choices.
Right.
So eventually he didn't want me to come back, but I kind of lobbied him to let me do that. And so I did. And I didn't come back as a college graduate. I came back as a new hire, unplugging toilets in my late 20s. I'm like 29 at this point, right? 28, scrubbing floors and cleaning, like my high school job. And it was the strangest experience because here I was in banking and insurance and college. There's all this education you're constantly learning, especially when you're doing claims. You have to learn medicine, you have to learn law, you have to learn all this stuff because you have to understand how to negotiate the settlement like fairly legally. And now I'm pushing, a hand cart and lifting boxes and scrubbing floors, and my brain is like bored. Like I just was bored with it. But again, and it also was kind of crappy because my wife is a teacher and I'm working nights, weekends, and holidays, and she's got a 9-to-5 job. So we would just pass each other the first couple of years we were married. So that was rough, but I knew financially it was a better thing. And I left again. My dad passed away very unexpectedly, and so I was really glad that I got to convince him to have me come back because I got a lot of time to spend with him. And so my first daughter's born 1999, and 2 months later he passes away, and I'm sitting there like. I was really hard, right? I'm sitting in his chair the day after. So we had a baptism from Henry's son and my daughter because they're 2 weeks apart. The next day we had the funeral. Actually, we had the funeral, and then the next day was the baptism. It's like really sad. And then the next day after that, I'm sitting in his chair trying to figure out what he was doing. And so, I was feeling like I don't think he wanted me to be here in the first place. Maybe I should try to move on. So I took over one of our locations in Wilmington. I turned it into a restaurant. I was already a restaurant. I just expanded it, added seating. I tested what I thought could work. And I came across a location in Carson, not far from us. And I was back in school. I'd gone back, started studying business again because I was still like mentally bored. And I found this location in the city of Carson, which is really close to us. And it was right next to where the Home Depot Center had just opened. And all these businesses their sales are jacked up because everyone's going to watch the Galaxy play and whatever else is happening at the Home Depot Center. And this guy owned the restaurant, but he didn't want the restaurant anymore. He just wanted to sell the restaurant for like $25,000. He would be the landlord and he'd own everything. And I'm like, oh my God, at the time, everyone's equity in their home was through the roof. So I'm like, here's a check. I want to try it. And I left the family, opened the restaurant, failed miserably for about a year and a half, came this close to bankruptcy.
Wow.
And it opened right after our third daughter was born. And my wife's got like all these health issues and she can't get out of bed. And I'm bouncing around trying to do this. And my family's kind of angry at me for leaving to open my own restaurant down the street.
Yeah.
It was a stressful time. I probably put on 50 pounds, which I literally just lost 20 years later this year.
Congratulations. What was the restaurant? What was the
restaurant? It was the same concept that I was trying to do, and it was called Casa Camarón. So it was like shrimp house. And the idea was like, I realized in studying business and look at what we're doing that we had this really big Hispanic customer base, very entrepreneurial. I'm like, what if they could open their own version of our business? And I could franchise it and do that. So it was small. It was only like 75 seats. And I realized like, okay, well, I don't know anything about finance. And I really don't know much about marketing, which I learned to love and realized I need someone else for finance. And I was okay at operations, but I had to keep innovating. I had to create a catering business out of it. And then I was going to all my friends who were medical reps just to deliver food, and it was totally off the menu. I was working 100-hour weeks just to try to get it going until eventually sold it and ended up back with my family. And then another interesting part is I go back to the family and I really didn't want to stay. I was like, I can't come back here feeling like a failure. I need to do something else. I feel like I keep getting bailed out. But my dad's youngest sister came down with pancreatic cancer very unexpectedly, and she didn't survive. And she was our financial director. And so it was really sad, like in six weeks, maybe she was gone. I was like, oh my God, and my family was like, look, you two, our aunt and you are the only ones that have a college education. We don't know what she was doing in the office. We just know how to clean fish and sell it. So I'm like, okay. And so I was helping my sister, who was her assistant. And I was trying to figure out what's going on. My sister said, I don't know what this is. And I looked at it and I go, oh, this is banking. I was a bank teller. I worked in a bank. We need to do this, and this is how we'll do it. And you call the bank. She goes, oh yeah. What about this one? I go, oh, this is a claims issue. Like I worked at an insurance company. I know you need a release and we need to do these things. You got to make sure we don't say that. And like, it was a total goosebump moment. You know, it's like if I hadn't left and had these other failures, like opening a restaurant and working banking, insurance, and all of that stuff just literally in that day came back to me like, you're in the right place. All those mistakes were really designed to happen for a purpose, and it's just to help us now. And that put me in a place where I could actually see, oh, this is what our business does. These are our actual numbers. Because I had no idea. I was just a laborer. And so all the education mistakes, all the things that I went through opened up a space for me to step in and then use my education on top of it to actually help. And that was a game changer. So that's how I got where I'm at now.
Isn't that fascinating? Where like if that would have happened 2 years earlier, you wouldn't have been open to it, or 5 years earlier. Like it had to happen at that moment where the twists and turns happened, and you had to be open to it. And thank goodness, because now you are running. You know, you and your family are running this super thriving business. That's amazing. I love that story.
Yeah, thanks. It's So it wasn't as glamorous at the time as it sounds when I say it now.
No, but it's life, man. It's real life. Like how many of us have those moments where it's like you look back, you're like, thank God that happened. Thank God that happened. That was stressful. I almost lost this and that. I mean, that thank goodness that stuff happened.
My wife and I, Anita, we were talking the other day. It was also with the kids about when I opened my own restaurant and she got viral meningitis. I think mostly for being so stressed about what we were trying to do on Easter. So I'm in the hospital with her all day trying to figure out what's going on. Then I had to run home and like make Easter baskets and put out the little jelly beans because the kids were little and they're at my mom's for Easter and doing an Easter egg. I had to make sure everything was set up and then run back to the hospital. Like the craziness of what you go through and don't think about it. Like later, like I watch my friends that don't have kids or family and they're like, I'm so tired. It's just so hard every day. Doing what?
Yeah. Well, you know what's
Turn the
interesting?
channel. I don't understand what you do all day.
Well, you've got some Easter things because like the restaurant opened Good Friday. Your mom had gallstone issues Good Friday. There's the Easter, like there's a thing, and so you've got to celebrate the Easters where everyone's healthy. I think that's you got to like celebrate.
Yeah. Now, from what I understand, didn't all your brothers meet their significant others through the fish market? And you also, is that true? Like, tell us that story because that's pretty interesting.
Yes. So I'm going back. So I'll go backwards. Henry did his wife Vita worked in the village, like where the business was. That's where they met. John's wife's mom actually worked for us forever, and at some point she came and worked for us, and then John met her there. I actually didn't meet Anita there. I think, and also Jennifer at the time was dating the friend, like part of the friend circle that he was in and out there too. So then, but for me, I met Anita actually at a bar with all my friends. It had nothing to do with the fish market. But after we were dating for a while, she was at my house and she was looking at this picture on my refrigerator. And I had like, it was a picture in the crab tank back in the 80s. And one of my friends is in it and who was a really attractive guy. Like every day girls came and tried to get his number or give him every day. Like I would just sit there, I don't understand. Like I'm completely invisible. Like, how are we doing this magic? I don't get it. And we're still friends, by the way. And so she's like, oh, that's the boy that I used to make my mom bring me into the crab tanks because her family visit from Colorado, and that's where they would go. They come to visit San Pedro Fish Market. And I go, oh yeah, that's my buddy. No, that guy's arrogant. He's a jackass. The guy next to him. I go, shit, that's me. I had a fan this whole time. I was 15. I had no idea.
No. That's great. See, I love that story.
It's so cute. It's so cute.
I also want to ask, like, when the pandemic started, there was countless restaurants that went out of business. What did you do to survive? Because I'm so curious about that because you ended up thriving and that was extremely difficult for restaurants.
Yeah, there's a couple things there. Well, I think the most important thing that I had done as a leader is I brought in the Entrepreneur Operating System about a year before EOS. You guys familiar with that at all? So
Oh,
so EOS is great. My friend Nathan Fox. I've known Nathan for a long time before this. He became a EOS implementer. It's funny because Nathan and I became friends as we're talking. I'm realizing that his brother lived in the house where I originally was raising the kids. Total random chance. And he was also working with John, the guy I mentioned earlier that said Tommy wanted to become a
Yeah.
television. Yeah, he was in a company with him too. So we had these weird like life crossing things by
mhm.
accident.
All meant to be. All meant
Yeah,
to
and,
be.
and and
Yeah.
so we had become friends and we're talking, and I was like, we have these meetings in my family, and they might go on for 4 hours, and then we have another meeting, and it's like no one remembered any of it. It's like I don't know how to organize this stuff because it's like corralling cats with ADD because everybody's all over the place, and we're not used to the structure of a typical business. So he brought in the idea of doing the entrepreneur operating system, and he implemented, basically taught us how to do it. So it created structure about how to have meetings, what's your actual core values, what is it, the vision of your company that you're after, how you're tracking it, what's the traction that you have together, who's responsible for what. And it's not an organization chart, it's an accountability chart. What are the major functions of the company, what are those seats, and finding people that are aligned with your core values. You can put them in there, and do they get it, do they want it, do they have capacity to do it. And it forced us to really organize the business. And then COVID happened. So
Mm.
otherwise, I think we would all been running around with like our heads cut off. And instead, everyone's like, here's
Mm.
it, got a strategy. First, we're going to do this. We know we're going to be closed for a certain amount of time. We got to keep our people working. We're going to do a $9.99 shrimp tray, which is a fraction of what we would normally sell, but it covers food costs and it keeps people working. And we're going to push it out in all the social media, and we're going to do a PR push, and we're going to set up all the third party. So we just put this plan together, and everybody's, I'll do that, do that. And we worked as a team strategically, all like
Mm.
checking off the different boxes as that we got through the conflict to the resolution of all the things that had to happen. Strategic, right? It was a total strategic thing, and I don't think we knew how to do that before. So when we looked back at it, we're like, and then we were innovating around that because we realized, hey, we have most of our seatings outside in our main
Yeah.
location.
Yes.
My brother Henry's like, that's it. We'll just move the tables apart. I'll put plexiglass between them. And so we were able to function that way. And it was really interesting too, is in the past, the way that business functioned is you would drive an hour, hope to find parking, walk a mile to stand in line for an hour to get in, and it was just complete chaos. And you were just going wherever you could till you found your food and your drink. And now we couldn't do that anymore. It's COVID. You can only let 6 people in at a time. And we still had a couple thousand seats, even with the moving seats
Yeah.
around. And so if you're only letting 6 people in at a time, there's this new space to have a conversation with them and ask them why they're there and what they're looking for and how you can help
Mm.
them. And the information we got out of that experience for a year or so was like, wow, we had no idea people didn't know how to do this, or didn't know you could do that, or didn't never, like 70% had never been there before. And so it opened up a whole bunch of new places for us to kind of redesign our offerings, improve them, refine them, and give the people a little bit better experience.
Wow. Excellent learnings. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Go ahead,
Well,
man.
I love that you stayed open to that. Like, I think a lot of people put their head in the sand during that, and you quickly jumped into action, and then you roamed the crowd and asked the questions. Who would, and I guess I'm asking this for our hotel operators and our restaurant entrepreneurs that are listening. When you walked into the audience, you walked into, talking to your patrons that were there. Who was that? Was that everybody on your executive team? Was that you? And how did you collect that information and that data then?
So it was mostly at first, we had to invent a way to do that because
Mhm.
we were too
Yeah.
busy, and we're trying to
Yeah.
figure out
Yeah.
who's going to be at the door, because we normally would have
Yeah.
security guards, and security guards were security guards were mostly checking ID and bags to make sure no one was smuggling food and alcohol in. So it
Yeah.
went from being like predatory almost, to
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we want you to have a good experience. What can we do to make it safe? So it turned out we mostly had managers there, and we had to have people that
Mhm.
had a personality and were open to talking. Sometimes it would be us, but most of the time, because you're talking about thousands and thousands of people. Like we were bringing in
Yeah.
20,000 people a week, so um, we would have people. We would what we would do is would give them notes, like a
Mhm.
checkboard, like check this off, just gather information, get information if people are complaining, and then it would report back through whoever their direct report, and it would come into our leadership meeting so we could analyze it and think about it, figure out what to do.
Ex-
Yeah.
Excellent. And you listened and you took action. I think like this is the message here is whether it's 20,000 people a week or it's 500 people a week. There's no better voice than the voice of your customer. And to listen to the good and the bad, and then actually have a plan to activate it. I love that that was a strategy that you implemented during COVID. I think that's really
And it was
important.
different. We had multiple locations, and two of them we ultimately just couldn't pull out of that nosedive because they're small. They were designed to be
Yeah.
fast casual. It wasn't this. We kind of made some errors in what our brand was versus what the experience of these smaller locations were. So we couldn't pull them out of that dive. It was just too hard.
Mhm.
Our bigger location that we literally opened 6 weeks before COVID, our Long Beach
Mhm.
location, which is inside of the show, that one was a little harder because it did have some outdoor seating, but most of it was inside. So we did one of the outside parklets in the parking lot, and the city was really open to that. But it was a learning experience because we just opened. We're not
Mhm.
making anywhere near the was that we're shipping through Goldbelly, our seafood trays, and
Mhm.
we can get a seafood tray to you the next day that way, and then you cook it yourself. But as we were experimenting, and one of the things that we had to experiment with is, as you may have noticed, we're in this temporary location where we had to leave, and there's all this stuff going on, and we're working out of a food truck, and it just occurred to us like this is just a kitchen with wheels. It's really more of a trailer. And how is this different than a ghost kitchen or a cloud kitchen or any of those? And why it's not complicated to teach people to make these products. So if you
Mhm.
could, do we want to go and invest to open more brick and mortar locations and deal with that failure, the risk of failure and all that cost? Or do we want to create a way that somebody could go and order one of these, design them the way they want, and have it delivered through third party this and within an hour? And like the thing is yeah, there's ghost kitchens and you can do that, right? I go all over the place. I order DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, whatever, and I go, oh, this is what I needed. But it's not the experience. And
Mhm.
so the idea with the metaverse was if you could put people in here and have them actually pick out their own fish and design their own trays and then have that delivered, there might be something there. But we're still like kind of working through not just the logistics of it, which I don't think are going to be as difficult as I anticipated. It's, do people want to order a giant tray of seafood for their home? Like I'm not sure if the experience needs to be on the water
Mm.
in a location where it's like the full package versus why do I want this in my house and who's going to clean it when I'm done. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what we have to do a little more customer polling on that, figure it out. But I think that the potential is there. Like I don't think it gets complicated as we anticipated it was going to be.
Interesting.
That is interesting because I think, but well, before the show started, I was telling Michael how my husband wants to go there and how just a big tray of mixed seafood is his bag. That
Mhm.
anywhere we travel, that's what he does. So I'll poll him. He is your ideal customer. I will poll him and I'll let you know what he says.
Awesome.
But it is interesting to think about, like, is it the experience? Is it the long tables and the experience of being on the water and having it drippy and coming to you fresh? Or is it just the fact that they can physically look at it, order it, and have it delivered? That's super interesting to think about.
Yeah. So, where we tested some of this is when we reopened into the temp location we're in now, which we haven't really gotten to the conversation. I don't know if you want me to jump there or not. But
Yeah, go there. Go
Go ahead.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
so, 2020, so 2022 was probably the best year we had on record, right? Everything opens up. We're already killing it. We put all the seats back. We produced about $30 million in sales and close to 2 million customers total between everything we were doing. And then we got notice that we needed to leave the legacy locations in San Pedro because they're redeveloping the area. And that's been going on for like 12 years. We just never could get an exact date. There was a lot of back and forth and delays. So we're like, okay, we thought this might happen. So we had been planning and putting together vendors and layouts about like how would we do a temporary location. And so we did that, and we left those buildings March. I think it was March 3rd of 2023, and then by Cinco de Mayo we had opened this temporary location that we call the Landing. But we didn't know exactly what we were going to do because we can have fish markets. I mean, it's hard to be in a parking lot with fresh fish, first of all. And then you're scaling it and gutting it, and you got all this waste and drainage, and there's health issues. So we had to figure out how can we prepare it and still give people basically the happily ever after part of it, you know, the big tray at the end without them picking all the seafood in the same way. And that's where we teamed up. We were already going towards Toast for point of sale system, but with 1,000 seats, I don't think Toast had the technology to do QR codes for 1,000 seats. So we used another company called Me and You. This was all my nephew, Henry Jr., who took over technology, put the whole thing together, figured out how to get it on the internet, turned it on. And so people could walk to the table, scan, and get a choice of different trays on their iPhone. And then we just run it to them.
I saw
What
that.
we haven't exactly done is a way to reinvent or duplicate the idea of being able to pick out with your eyes the seafood in the showcase. We'll get back to that. Long Beach does have that location. They have a big showcase there. But in the Legacy and the temp location, we're still kind of working through how to make that work.
Yeah.
But people seem happy. I mean, we still had, I think for 12 months, we did 450,000 customers through a temporary parking lot with less than 1,000 seats. So it's not bad. It's just not good. It's just not where we were. It's still significantly less.
It says a lot about the family. It says a lot about your family and the loyalty, the customer loyalty.
Yeah.
We have a strong brand.
What was the inspiration behind agreeing to do the show?
Oh, it was actually my idea to do it in the first place. I was, and I'm constantly, come on, we could do this, pulling everybody along. But I had been studying in school, business school, philosophy. I was studying a lot about how narratives work. Like we did stuff you learn in 6th grade. You know, it's the elements of the exposition and the plot mountain, right? You got your speaker, you got your speaker champion, minor actor, major actor, adversary. You got your current situation starts action, and then your conflict resolution, denouement. And I was studying these, thinking, I don't know what to do with these. Like, there's really interesting, and I understand storytelling. It's really good. And then fundamentally, at a biological level, we're always looking for meaning, and we're always making up stories. So rather than have someone else make up a story about you, control it and use it the way that you want it to be heard so that you can own your stories. And I was like, we have a lot of stories and we're not telling them. And then social media pops up and you're reading everybody's interpretation of who we are and what we do. Oh, they're like that swap meet down in Ensenada of different seafood stands. I'm like, wow, that's not us, but no one's telling the story, you know?
Yeah.
And so I would just read about all these people commenting in different blogs and Facebook, and eventually not so much Instagram because it wasn't really big yet. And I was like, we have to figure out a way to tell our own story. So we had done a couple of TV shows, and we always feed the production companies. So I would call the producers and I go, I want to hire you guys to do a commercial first and see just about our history, not to put out on TV, but I want to use it for us, like a 2 to 3 minute video that's just the history of San Pedro Fish and who we are. And we were using it to negotiate to be part of the project, because we knew this redevelopment was coming, and they weren't going to include us. I'm like, well, maybe if we tell our story, it'll make a difference. And then we had been on various TV shows and worked at different things, and the family was always really comfortable in front of the camera because they're like big hams, right? So I thought, you know, maybe this could work. And we were setting 3 Guinness World Records in a single day for this festival, this lobster festival that we used to do. Yeah. And these guys that we filmed with, like, hey, can we film that? Because we think there might be a show in it, but we just don't know how your guys are in front of it. So they filmed this the whole day. They created a sizzle reel. They shopped it all over the place. It looked a lot like Duck Dynasty with fish. And it was awesome. It was an awesome concept, but no one wanted it because I think at the time Duck Dynasty had some bad press. They were like, we don't want to touch this. But they gave it to us to use. We stayed really good friends with them. And I was testing it for retail products that I was selling in the groceries. That was another project that I started, and a few other things. And I was finding that people were really sort of into the story of who we were and what we were doing. So we thought maybe we could just do it on our own, because everywhere we went to try to have someone else do it, they're like, well, you need to fight more. There needs to be more conflict. There needs more
Oh
drama.
yeah.
And I didn't want to lose control of us, of our
Right.
story.
Yeah.
So we found Tim, who's our executive producer, Tim Wasmuth, and he works on a bunch of shows like Bar Rescue and Below Deck and Iron Chef America, and he had all these, but he was an editor, and he had explained to me, it's like I really would like to produce something because I know what camera angles I need that I never get in the edit bay. But if I could film it myself, then I could edit it the way that would work. So he goes,
Mhm.
well, we want to test it out and do 4 episodes. And I think there's some things I had some ideas of what I could do with it, but we just wanted to see if it would be successful. And we saw like a 25% jump in sales on the month of July, where we normally can't even get 1% because we're so packed. So I'm
Mhm.
like, well, it's working. And then we had a viral video that came out of it when we teamed up with Food Beast. They did a video called the Super Tray, which you could look up
Mhm.
if you do Super Tray, and you'll see they were basically exchanging content. Give us 4 episodes, we'll do a viral video. They didn't know it was going to go viral. They got 55 million views. It brought in
Wow.
30,000
Wow.
in 10 days in March in the rain. It brought in 30,000 customers. And
Wow.
so I'm
Wow.
like, there's something here.
Yeah.
So we just kept building
Obviously.
on it. We just kept building on it. And
Inter-
eventually it led to what's happening now with Amazon.
Interesting. Wow.
I love that. I wanna switch gears for a second and
Mhm.
ask you about Uncle Tommy.
Yeah.
Because if you watch the show, you
Yeah.
learn, he's one of the OGs, your dad isn't around anymore. He's heart and soul. But what the business lesson that I picked up from Uncle Tommy is his relationships with the vendors.
Mhm.
And I think so many times in business right now, the buyers take advantage of the vendors, or the buyers are mean to
Because not that there was anything wrong with them, but they were,
yeah.
older companies, out of date technology, and the owner would be, in his 80s. And I'm like, there's better things we could be doing. And he finally told me, he goes, listen, when we opened in 1982, it rained the whole year. First of all, it was like the major El Nino, and all our seats were outside. And
Mm.
everybody mortgaged their house. Everybody put every dime into building this thing, and then there was no money coming in, and I couldn't pay
Mm.
anybody. So I had to beg and borrow and steal just to stay open. And I would tell people, listen, I can't pay you, but if you'll just give me terms, I will never, ever, ever leave you. Just help me get
Mm.
through this. And so he kept that word for decades, no matter if the vendor wasn't the best vendor. It was like he had a
Mhm.
certain honor to hold that, hold that promise. And so I think that went a long way towards just his personal ethic around being a
Mm.
business person. That was one. The other thing was, when we had money, he always paid all the bills. And if he couldn't, he goes, "Listen, I can't pay the full bill, but I'm going to give you at least some of it. Just I'm not don't." And he would always return calls and answer calls, and he took care of those relationships. He really cultivated them.
Mhm.
I would also see him do this other trick. This wasn't so much with vendors. This just was like a networking trick he used to do that I probably going to kill me. I don't even know if he knows I know this. Yeah, whatever. I'll
Tell
tell you.
it. Tell
We had
it.
a banquet room upstairs for a long time, and our bartender was a buddy of mine. I would talk to him all the time, and I would see all these people that were invited to this. It wasn't necessarily art. It might be a political event.
thing like watching a big family, and I think that's what I get from watching this. It's just the interaction and just the love that goes into this. So how do you maintain that family vibe where I know it's probably hard not to talk about work all the time, but how do you transition from you're working and now you're a family? Like, how do you keep good graces with everybody and not make it about
Yeah,
work all the time?
it's hard, especially when you like when my dad passed away, I was 20, I think I was 28, 29.
Mhm.
And so when Tommy Jr., who you'll see, like he passed away too, he was a big part of the show up until this season. Like we actually weren't even going to do any more seasons, but we decided to, after talking to his family, like it'd be a cool way to memorialize him if you wanted to do it. We don't know if it'll ever end up on Amazon because we can never get a straight answer, but now it is, and I'm like, what we were telling his kids who were my age, because Tommy Jr. passed away at the same age as my dad. So watching
Mhm.
what his sons and daughters are going through, it's like, yeah, we understand how that is. It's terrible. And his wife, his widow. So, but what do I have of my dad? I've got some photographs, like a couple old VHS tapes. I don't have much, but
Mhm.
memories.
Mhm.
You have a whole 8 seasons of a TV show capturing him as he
Mm.
was. That's there forever. So
Mm.
that was one of the things that we used the show around family. I mean, it's never easy, like we'll have family meetings and sometimes we're arguing, sometimes we're not. I brought in a system. I brought in a couple coaches that wasn't really around getting family to get together, but like an entrepreneur operating system, one of the things you do is you've got to separate family from operations. Like if you're going to be an owner, but you're also in operations and you have a manager, if you go in, you're not owner and you're not family anymore. You directly report up to the person you hired to do that job, or you destroy his authority.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Mhm.
been a battle over and over and over again. So although it's there, it's so deep in people. Like I've been working here since I was 11. Why do I have to listen to this guy? Well, I went through it. Let
Mhm.
me go through it again. It's not about right or wrong. It's about what's best for the business. And so people fall back into those habits. So we brought in a couple of other coaches. The one that's I think is working the best, really transforming the entire culture of the business is my friend Ron. He created something called the Macklin Connection. Ron Macklin. You
Mhm.
can look this up. And he went in and he created this incredible system based on what he did in his operations roles for big companies over the years, from blue collar guys to not to whatever. And he and I I kind of beta tested it with him when he was developing it, and then we brought him in.
Mm.
I can't mandate it, because if I mandate it, what happens is people go in there just to prove that it's bullshit.
Mhm.
And then it falls apart, especially if you're an owner and you're like, I told you it was
Mhm.
bullshit. Now all the people I got to listen to is an owner. So we don't
Mhm.
mandate it. But what's naturally happened, like my brother Henry came, I don't know if it was it was a few weeks ago. He goes, you know what? I was wrong. I thought you were trying to fix me. I go, no, dude, I'm
Mm.
trying to make you better. Like this is a way to amplify what's already good about you. It's not about fixing something that's
Yeah.
broken. And it took him months and months and months and months of going like we invited him to so you do the 18 weeks and they have something called the arena call. And what the arena call is where you're practicing the method. It's a place like you're not in the stands watching and booing or rooting. You're on the field in the
In the
arena
arena. Yeah.
playing the game.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so we have these arena calls. I have one today in 9 minutes actually. And we practice the methodology. And after we invited Henry in, and after months, he's like, I get this now. I see what this is. I want to do the 18 weeks, which he
Okay.
just started.
Mm.
And so
Awesome.
and my
Good for
sister's learning to
Henry.
actually lead the 18 weeks. She's going through the leadership program. And I'm sitting there going, wow, I don't even know how to do that. But it's transforming the way we work together as a family.
Interesting.
So
That's
So,
cool. Cool.
for like my final question, then I'll let
Mhm.
Mandy close us out. If you could go back to right when you're 21 at USC and give yourself advice based on everything you've learned so far, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh man, I would have studied business because I didn't want to deal with the math, and I went political science. I did a semester in DC, which ruined me for politics. And then I studied communication because it seemed like universal, and they're useful to me. But I didn't understand the power of philosophy and business, which I
Mm.
studied much later. And if I knew that, I would have really jumped on those earlier. I think
Nice. Great
maybe
advice.
even economics.
Yeah. Great advice.
Mm.
Mandy,
That's
why
good.
don't you bring us home?
Well, I'm gonna ask a final question in a second, but Amani, we forgot to flip the script.
Oh,
We forgot to invite
Didn't
Michael to
didn't
ask
get
us
to
a
ask you guys
question.
yeah.
questions.
So real quick, we
Yeah.
got like 6 minutes left. Ask myself or Mandy a question. Be any question you want to ask us, and then
I have a bunch. Let me think.
we'll
So,
pick 2 or 3. Go ahead.
okay, Amani, I'm curious your background in music. How did you? I have a bunch of friends that are music. I'm not a musician.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of friends that are very successful and accomplished and just having fun musicians. Like, what
Mhm.
was your inspiration to get into music?
My inspiration growing up, I played the saxophone. So I was in jazz bands through high school and college. I saw DJ Bismarcky at this club,
Yeah.
and that really inspired me. I said, I want to do what he does, but I didn't think it was a legitimate career. So it took me about 11, 12, 13 years to get the courage to go for it. And so I finally went for it when I moved to LA. And then I went to first taught myself how to DJ. Then I went to Scratch Academy twice, once for DJ school, once for music production. And then I was kind of off and running there. And then
Cool.
kind of one of the later pieces. Then I went back to school, Berklee College of Music, and got my master's in music business. And I continued to ascend from there.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's the inspiration.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't bore you with what I know, but I'm just curious because I'm always amazed. My daughters are all performers and singers and dancers, and I kept thinking they're never gonna move out. And like they're all managed to turn it into like careers, or like you're right on the cusp of that in their early 20s. So,
Yeah.
and they're friends too. Like
Mhm.
my daughter's best friend was on American Idols. Very
Okay.
talented.
Yeah.
So she,
Awesome.
and her dad's like one of a famous drummer, and her uncle's a famous drummer, and her other uncle's a famous. Like I'm watching, going, how did you pull that off?
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love it.
Cool.
Okay, next one, Mandy.
Mandy.
You said
Ready.
you were traveling around, and it sounded like there's seafood in travel, but I didn't get a location. Have you been to any places in Europe to have seafood?
Yes. Oh yeah. I mean, we
Memorable
went
one?
to Croatia, I think had great seafood.
I was there 2
My
years ago. It's
husband really
awesome.
liked the seafood in Spain.
Yes, that's
And
what I was. I
yeah.
was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah, in Sevilla.
All right.
Yeah, he liked the seafood in Sevilla, and obviously Italy. We love the
Yeah.
seafood in Italy. Mexico, being in San Diego, there's some great seafood on the coast down here too. So
There's
yeah,
there's a place in Torremolinos, Spain, that I went on our honeymoon, like
Torremolino.
20 some years ago, whatever, 28 years ago. And I think it's called Costa del Sol. The friend of mine told me about it, and we found it. And it's very similar to what we do, where you pick out all the fish and they cook it for you. I just found video of it on a Dropbox drive. But it was
Oh.
incredible. Like I want to go back. But I've been to all the same places you just mentioned, and like the food's just so incredible, man. Wow.
It's so
Awesome.
incredible, especially that vibe, that pick your own, cook it. Torremolino, I haven't heard of though. We're gonna have to add that to our list. Thank you.
Yeah, it's
That's great.
southern, like right across. It's like between Gibraltar, and you can take a boat across to, I guess it's Africa, right there. I'm trying to think, but we shipped my brother off because he was with us. He goes, "Yeah, go over there. We're gonna hang out at the pool today."
I'm gonna hang out at the pool. You go over there.
My
That's
honeymoon.
fun.
We do.
I love that. I love that. We'll have to add that to the list. Okay, I have a last question. You
Okay.
talk a lot about gut instinct. Through being in digital hospitality with you, through watching on the show, through interacting. It feels to me like you've got a strong intuition, a business intuition, a gut instinct. For other business owners out there like you, what advice can you give to them about trusting their gut in
Yeah,
business?
I honestly, I've been told by very successful people, go with your gut. I'm very hesitant about it. It's easy, right? Because sometimes my instincts are correct. What I try to do is run them through fundamentals first. Like I learned a very fundamental philosophy. I'll go through. It's actually on this poster. You probably can't see it though. My friend took 1,200 pages of philosophy and turned it into a picture.
Okay.
And so yeah,
Ooh.
it's pretty incredible. I just hung it up because I need it for my mind. But I'll go through that, which is like, okay, is it aligned with my ambition? How about my personal philosophies? What's my knowledge gap? What kind of ethics do I need to have? What can I get out there and start making like new strategies, offers, practices, narratives about? Do I have enough of a network to do this? Do I have enough autonomy? Can I produce enough accomplishments? Right. And then it goes into like, what's your identity and your leadership? What kind of business organization and how can you anticipate the future? I'll go through that with my gut. And if I can't get to all of it, where's the breakdown? And I'll reverse engineer to figure it out before I do it. Because I just realized I need those things because otherwise you become unmoored from the fundamentals. You start to spin. And like, how the heck did I get over here? I went with my gut, and maybe I should have stopped to really think if it's aligned with principles, laws, and mechanics first. And it's hard because that ruins your mood. I just want to do what feels right. I have a great idea. Everybody listen to me and follow.
Talk about a buzzkill. But I love the idea of like using your gut as a tool and having these other tools that work for you. Can you, I want to take a picture of that. Well, so not now, after we hang out, I want to take a picture of that. I want to see that thing behind you because that looks fascinating. It's a really cool infographic.
It might have a trademark on it, but you can.
Okay. Well, all right. Oh, there it is.
Maybe
Okay.
some of it. I don't know if it's going to make.
Okay. Or we'll look them up and pay for it and have it sent to us.
I'll send you a link so you can see it because
that's cool.
He does these like in talks and stuff. What happens is him and I will do presentations together. We just did one on the monopolies and auctions I was talking about at the last. I'm going to talk about it Friday, I think, on Sean's call.
Oh, good. Okay.
But he designs one of these around those concepts and then we present it. And it's normally because we don't understand it and it helps us get a little bit better by teaching it. But this one's way out of my league. It's too much.
No, infographics are everything. I love for the listener. We're looking at a really complex, multiple image, just one piece of paper though behind Michael's head, and it's actually walks you through strong decision making. So that's I love that. I love that you have that part of your process. It's cool.
Yeah, it's helpful.
All right. Well, we definitely want to continue to follow your journey and continue to innovate in the industry. And thank you for being on our show, telling us your story behind the scenes, giving advice, like just very valuable information. So we really appreciate that. And we'll just continue to support the restaurants when we're visiting and order a good big seafood tray. I'm hungry now. I'm ready to eat one now.
Yeah, right. And so, and everybody go to Amazon Prime Video, watch Kings of Fish. It's spectacular. Go to kingsoffish.tv, right? Is that the website?
Kingsoffish.tv, kingsofishtv.com.
Yeah,
kingsoffish.tv. Kingsoffish.tv. Yeah. And then San Pedro Fish Market. I mean, just support and share and keep growing. Michael, we love what you and your family are doing. It's amazing.
Thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
Appreciate it. We'll give you a round of applause, put you back in the green room. So hold on real quick here.
You walk around with those applause.
We can say that to you. All right, Mandy, another tremendous show. Thank you very much to our guests, Michael, for being with us. We're off next week for Labor Day. Time is flying by. And then we're back the week after Labor Day. Do we know who we're having that week, that day?
We do. We have Juan Toro, who is the CEO of a really awesome destination management company in Colombia.
All right.
So we've got, and he's coming in from Cartagena, Colombia. He's calling in from Cartagena, Colombia. So I met him earlier this year, and the passion he has for that destination and the way he runs his business is inspiring. So I'm excited for our guests to just get a little flair of Juan Toro and experience what he's got to offer.
Awesome. Well, we'll see all of you in 2 weeks. Please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, share with a friend, whether you're watching the show live, listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We appreciate your support. Turn the bell on so you get your notifications on, and we will see you live in 2 weeks. Take care, everyone.
See you in 2 weeks. Have a great Labor Day. Bye, everybody.